What's going on, Washington Commanders Nation? Our leader of our offensive line has suddenly popped up on the injury report, and it's got me shooketh on this Thursday afternoon. And we may finally see the return of Emanuel Forbes. Debate yourself about whether that's a good or bad thing. This is Rambling About Washington. I am Rio Robinson. Let's get to it. What's going on, Washington Commanders Nation? It's Thursday, September 26th. We got two of our ops playing on Thursday night football tonight between the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Giants. And Washington, Arizona's injury report is looking pretty lengthy. It's looking pretty lengthy, 3 days away from the game. And before we get to that, this video and all videos this season will be brought to you and powered by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino, where it all begins, home of the fastest payouts in the industry, and a match bonus of 150% on your first deposit and 125% on your next two. For up to your first three deposits, up to $2,000 using code YouTube150. One more time, that was promo code YouTube150 on BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. Shout out to the sponsor. Let's talk about it. Washington, Arizona injury report. We're finally done riding high off of our momentous Monday night victory. And we got the news yesterday that Austin Eckler and Clelin Ferrell will be out this week versus the Arizona Cardinals. And I think losing that Monday, a day of recovery, because we were on prime time, it doesn't really allow guys to get right. You know, the concussion protocol, that's always a process, and you want guys to take the entire process to get right, because you don't want to force guys back out there too early on a concussion, because that is your life you're talking about. That is your brain, and you don't want to play around with that. Clelin Ferrell's injury may be a little bit more serious than they've led on so far. He was the only guy who had a sack through the first 2 weeks of the season for Washington, and he will miss another game in the desert this Sunday. But the name that pops out to you on this list sticks out like a sore thumb. It got me a little bit shook, I'm not going to lie, is Sam Cosmi at the top of this. He did not practice yesterday, and the injury says Achilles. Achilles is not a word you want to see attached to any player on your favorite football team, nonetheless, but especially an offensive lineman. Those are some big boys, and they need both of their lower extremities to do their job, to chop wood and to knock guys' dick in the dirt. And Sam Cosmi, coming off a fresh contract extension of 4 years, $74 million, $45 million guarantee. That is our best offensive lineman. That is the leader in that room, and he is the guy who sets the entire tone for our offensive line. So that would be a huge loss not to have Sunday versus the Arizona Cardinal. And this game is very important because we're going to talk about it later in this episode. If the Commanders can take care of business in these next 6 weeks, this season can mean a lot more than we thought so going into an evaluation year. But Sam Cosmi, Achilles are not two words I had on my bingo card for the injury report this week. And I hope this is precautionary. I hope it was just my Achilles is sore. And since I'm a vet and since I'm a high paid guard, they just said, fuck it. We'll put you on the injury report. Go ahead and take a couple of days off. But I imagine they would specify that if that was the case, like they do with Jamison Crowder and Zach Ertz, who are not injured, and they were out for veteran rest days. So apparently there's something there. I need an update of assurance from Dan Quinn today, because this has me nervous as hell. As I look at the Arizona Cardinals interior, they don't have any guys that spook you off rip. They don't have any guys that terrify you in that interior, and they're not getting the most pressure up front. Roy Lopez and Bilal Nichols, one of them has a sack, one of them has a tackle for loss, but those are not world beaters. But there's a difference between having Sam Cosmi out there on Sundays and not having Sam Cosmi out there. I hope Sam Cosmi's good. Cross your fingers, knock on wood. We need him on Sunday. Emanuel Forbes Jr. was a full participant at practice, and Dan Quinn says Manny Forbes will most likely is trending toward playing on Sunday. We need to see, like Emanuel Forbes or not, barbecue chicken or not, Emanuel Forbes is the second best cornerback on this football team right now. And that's me, a person very critical of Emanuel Forbes, saying that. And while we're evaluating young talent on this team, we need another season-length body of work from Emanuel Forbes. So we need to see him go out there and see if it continues, if he continues to get beat like a drum, or if progress is going to be made. At some point, somebody got to step up at the cornerback position. Benjamin St-Juste had a good game versus the New York Giants. At some point, another corner on this roster has to emerge as a playable candidate. Don't got to be good, because that's asking a lot. Don't got to be elite, because that's almost asking the impossible at this point. But another corner at some point has to stick out. Has to have a good game. You can't tell me that a guy that had the ability to flip fields in college cannot at some point accidentally fall into an interception or two, fall into being in the right place when a ball gets tipped in the air. I never thought I would say these words, but I am excited to see Emanuel Forbes get back out there on Sunday. And Marvin Harrison Jr., Michael Wilson, Greg Dortch is not a slouch receiving room at all. Michael Wilson gets busy, and we already know what Maserati Marv is. We need Maserati Marv to look like Mazda or Mitsubishi Marv this Sunday. So I'm excited to get Emanuel Forbes back this Sunday. I'm not going to lie. It sounds crazy. It definitely sounds crazy, but I mean that when I say it. I mean that with all sincerity. Who else didn't practice? We already talked about Eckler and Farrell. So, Cosmi and Ertz is just veteran rest days. Like, you're old, nigga. Go ahead, take a day off. Quan Martin and Benjamin St-Juste were limited, but they're going to go on Sunday. And Jerzon Johnny Newton, full participant. I need Brandon Coleman and Johnny Newton ramped the fuck up over these next few weeks. I need Brandon Coleman getting the full-time snaps, because he almost out-snapped Cornelius Lucas on Monday. I need full-time left tackle Cornelius Lucas, and I need Johnny Newton working his way up to full-time snaps at the defensive tackle position. Because if we're going to get nothing from Jonathan Allen and Daron Payne, put that killer on the football field. He's a killer. He's a dog. He has a relentless motor. He hustles, and he looks healthy again. It's a matter of getting him back in game shape, because, he missed most of the summer, and that's a big boy. So, he's going to be huffing and puffing a little bit. But I don't mind seeing him huff and puff when I'm watching a quote-unquote leader of the defense, Jonathan Allen, look tired as shit by the third quarter every week. So, Johnny Newton and Brandon Coleman, I need their productivity and their snap counts. I need them emboldened. I need them strengthened. I need them ramped up to take over positions, especially if we're going to consider shopping a guy like Jonathan Allen, or dare I say Daron Payne, at the trade deadline, because a lot of people are talking about it, and it is a conversation that needs to be had. But let's shift gears for a second. This game is very important for Washington versus the Arizona Cardinals on Sunday. For whatever reason, some fans think that we should be shaking in our boots and afraid of the Arizona Cardinals, a team with a very similar trajectory than us. Our roster, if it's worse than Arizona's, it's a little bit worse than Arizona's, because they have a very bottom 5 roster in this league as well. And if it were not for Kyler Murray, Budda Baker, and Marvin Harrison Jr., I'm not sure what roster we're talking about in Arizona. And they're still in the second year of a first-time coach, and Jonathan Gannon, a very awkward but a very good coach. They fight for the guy. We're looking at Washington's next 6 games on the schedule, and I'm hypothesizing for a second. My prediction was always 8-9, phenomenal for an evaluation year, and especially considering we're on track and trending towards having the 8th worst defense in the history of the NFL right now. So 8-9 sounds like a dream come true for that type of football team. But here's the caveat. Look at the next 6 games on Washington's schedule. Getting off to a 2-1 start and winning a game we were not supposed to win versus the Cincinnati Bengals has me looking at this shit like, what if Washington comes out of this 6-2 stretch, of this 6-game stretch, 4-2, which would give us 6 wins and 3 losses. So through 9 games, we would be 6-3 if we come out of this with 4 wins. You know what? Let's be a little more realistic. Let's say we go 3-3. Let's say we split this shit up. Let's say we beat the Panthers, we beat the Giants again for the sweep, and we beat the Arizona Cardinals, and we lose to the Browns, Ravens, and Bears. Just to be fair and objective, that would still give us 5 wins through 9 games. With 8 games left to go, we'd be sitting at 5 wins, well on pace for an 8-win season, and well on pace to be in the mix and right in the crux of that NFC playoff picture. I don't want to use the P word. I don't want to use the W word. I don't want to talk about wild cards or playoffs for this team in year 1 of Jaden Daniels, in year 1 of Adam Peters, in year 1 of Dan Quinn, before we have not even half the ingredients yet to call ourselves a playoff team. But I will say this. If the league continues to trot on like it has the first 3 weeks of the season, and Washington sneaks a dub in versus the Cardinals or maybe the Browns, and we keep this thing rolling, look out. Look out. They say every time the NFC East is a disaster, Washington wins that motherfucker. And we at least have the confidence of knowing we have one of those quarterbacks that we can feel like we're in any game. We can feel like a game could be changed, and we will never feel like we cannot score on our opponent. The defense is going to be the Achilles heel of this team, of course, because we need the talent, we need the personnel, and we haven't figured out what we're doing with the shit sandwich that we have on the roster currently on defense. But look at these next 6 games. You get Arizona, who's a team that is very similar in trajectory to us. The Cleveland Browns, who were supposed to be this playoff favorite, top 3 defense, and all they needed was Watson to take a step closer to who he used to be for them to be one of them ones. And they just got washed by the Giants and the Cowboys so far this year, and neither of those guys look like world beaters. Then there's the Baltimore Ravens. That's probably one of the games we're going to be the biggest underdogs in all season. But through 3 weeks, they don't look that good either. They're 1-2, and even in their best performance versus the Dallas Cowboys, they almost gave that lead up. The Carolina Panthers, they look like they got new life breathed into them once they inserted Andy Dalton over Bryce Young. So that is not going to be a gimme, but that is Darryl Green retirement jersey day. That is, I believe, is that one of the pull out the black jersey days, or is it just the Bears and the Titans? Not sure. No, it's not that. It's not a black uniform type of day. But the Panthers are still tracking as one of the worst teams in the league, similar trajectory as us. The Chicago Bears, on paper, supposed to be a fringe playoff team this year. But they look like similar trajectory than us, and our rookie quarterback has hit the ground running faster than DC native Caleb Williams. These are all winnable games, and then we go up to MetLife in November to complete a season sweep against the New York Giants. I want the brooms broke out on them bitch-ass boys in New York. 6 very winnable games. If this team wants any shot or any crack at making the evaluation year a little bit more than that, coming out of this with at minimum 3 wins will make it very easy to start having some real ass conversations as we hit the back end of the schedule. Because if you come out of this with a total of 5 wins on the season, or dare I say 6, you're looking at a closing schedule of Pittsburgh at home, at Philly, Dallas at home, Tennessee at home, New Orleans on the road, Philly at home, Atlanta at home, Dallas on the road. Everything on the schedule is a winnable game. There's no Kansas City Chiefs on this schedule, y'all. No Patrick Mahomes on this schedule. The Ravens are the closest to that, and we get them a couple weeks from now. But take the Ravens off the schedule. Split with the Cowboys, split with the Eagles, and take care of business with teams on a similar trajectory than us. And we're having a totally different conversation about the rest of 2024. Just a little something for y'all to chew on a Thursday afternoon. Sam Cosmi, Achilles. Emanuel Forbes looks like he's ready to return. And if Washington ramps shit up and takes care of business and at least gets 500 through their next 6 games, then, oh boy, we may be talking about relevancy, flex scheduling, and dare I say the P word, playoffs. Playoffs? Yes. Take care of business. I'm one game at a time. I'm not trying to get ahead of myself, but I'm just having an objective conversation as I look forward to Washington's next 6 games. But let's take it a week at a time. And it starts this Sunday in the desert versus the Arizona Cardinals. I'm not even going to mention that we usually struggle here and that we struggle in the desert versus this team, because none of that has anything to do with right now or the quarterback that we currently have on this roster. But that is all I got for right now. Like I mentioned earlier, this show and all videos and streams this season is powered by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino, home of the 150% match bonus on your first deposit, $125 on your next 2 for up to $2,000. Fastest payouts in the industry, where it all begins. Make sure you do your online betting this season with BetUS, and please bet responsible. Until next time, hail to the Washington Commanders. Commander Rio out.